to okay, good evening, everyone. Welcome to a webinar, and I'll be taking you on communication and its benefits in QA. My name is Samuel Ubode, and I am the co-founder of Nito Solutions. Really quickly, I'll try not to, we're not going to read through most of all of these things, so I'm going to try and I really need we all to listen attentively. I'll try and make it as interactive as possible. So I'm just going to introduce this topic, effective communication. What is communication? What does communication really mean? What is your understanding of communication? Anyone, please, if you could just give me your own understanding. What do you see as communication? What's your definition of communication? Anyone? You can just raise your hand, I'll call. Or I'll just call people, right? Yeah, you're allowed to speak. Anyone who wants to give us a quick definition, please go ahead. Okpeyemi Ajaga. Do you mind? Ruben, I'll get to you in a minute. Just give me a quick. Okpeyemi is not. Okay, Ruben, please go ahead.
All right. So good evening, everyone. Yeah. So when we are talking about communication, I believe communication is process of exchanging information. Yeah. Exchanging information's idea or message between individuals.
Okay. That's a good one. Any other person? You can raise your hand if you want to speak. But if there's no other person, I'll just go ahead. So for me, I'll just say in layman's terms, communication is just for me a way of passing message across from one individual to the other, or from one team to another, or from one group of people to another group of people. Now, I believe that two people can be in a conversation and there will be no communication happening. If you feel I'm wrong, please, I'm open to learning as well. So please, let's sort of discuss that here. But I believe, so for example, Ruben and I can be talking, but we are really not communicating. We're having a conversation, but we're really not communicating. I believe in communication, there has to be understanding. The lack of that word understanding in communication erases or erodes whatever it is that we're saying. If I'm communicating with somebody, that person has to comprehend what I am saying, and myself also comprehending the responses that this person is also giving, right? So that comprehension is key. So when communicating with people, no matter the words you use, even if you communicate in Pidgin, Spanish, whatever language, even if it's sign language with your hands, it is communication. Because the person who is reading your sign language, understanding what you are saying, that message, that data you're passing across is understood by the other party. Now, a lot of us and the reason why we have this topic is, as QA engineers, it is one of the most fundamental skill we need to have, but it is also very overlooked, right? Now, I can give you several examples. I've had, we all know that there's this back and forth between QA and developers most of the time, and this lack of communication or lack of comprehension is between these two parties. As young QA engineers, you need to embody the role of effective communication, because it is the cornerstone to you being successful. See, forget every skill that you have been taught. Well, don't forget it. No, I don't mean that literally. But no matter how good skillfully you are, no matter how solid you are as a QA engineer in terms of writing test cases, doing automated tests, if you cannot communicate effectively, you are not a quality QA engineer. You're not one of great value to organizations, because at the end of the day, what's the essence of your skill if you cannot then communicate the outputs, the results, and the issues around these things? Because you are the custodian of quality. So you cannot be a QA engineer and be timid and say, oh, I don't like to talk, or I don't like to interact with people, I'm an introvert. We have people who are QA engineers that are introverts, right? But at the end of the day, when it comes to their work, they communicate. You're an introvert, there are several ways of communication: text message, calls, emails, whatever the case may be, right? So effective communication is the cornerstone of being a successful quality assurance engineer anywhere in the world. Trust me, anywhere in the world. Right? This is what determines the success of the products and services, that you are trying to build, to ensure that these things meet, the set requirement, the goals. So as we go into this topic, we'll delve into the importance of communication and explore all the numerous benefits, right? So let's go on to the next slide. Yeah, so I tried to, this is what I, spoke of earlier on. Communication is the exchange of information, ideas, thoughts, feedback between individuals, right? This phenomenon we call communication, effective communication, is that bridge between different and diverse departments. And one thing QA engineers need to understand is the fact that you connect a lot of roles and departments. So for example, when you say stakeholders, your executives, your product team, the developers, that's front end, back end, if you have data people. So you connect you are the bridge between all these people, because at the end of the day, the company wants quality solution, and all these people, all the inputs or outputs of all these people merge together to form the product or service being rendered by an organization, which you are a custodian of that quality of what comes out. So you need to know how to communicate with each and every team, when to communicate with them, and ensure understanding. Ensure that when you are trying to pass a message across, that person understands. One of the roles in communication is also being a good listener. You have to be able to listen and try and understand the challenge, because at the end of the day, empathy is one of the greatest things. Because number one, you're empathizing with the overall customer, who the product or service is for. You're also going to empathize with your stakeholders. You know that the back-end guy is working to do this. You have to empathize with him, look at his challenges, and understand what brings out the best in him. Now, I hear a lot of QA saying, this is not my job, this is not my work. Why should I be the one doing this? Of course, you have a case when you say that, but at the end of the day, guess what? You end up with a product of lesser quality. Because it may not be in your job description, it's not something that it's an unwritten rule. But if you want to be successful, you have to. I have had in my career as a QA engineer to listen to developers, understand. I've had to even research certain things I didn't understand about development, and just to understand what the developer is trying to, say. And guess what? Most times I hear developers talk to some my colleagues I worked with back then, and they say, no, you won't understand. You're not technical. You won't understand. Sam will understand. Let me call Sam. Sam, you understand? Why do they feel I will understand? Eventually, I mean, I'm technical and all, but how did I get to that point? Is because I realized that I need to empathize with developers. I needed to understand, okay, why are you guys using this language? What's the challenge you're facing here? You know, it's just little research here and try to at least empathize with them and then communicate with them. So sometimes they've developed a feature and have pushed it ready for testing, and I go and like, in my head, I'm like, I don't want to use the word, but in my head, I'm like, is this guy, does this guy even thinking? Is it even, what's he thinking? But, you know, take a deep breath. I take a deep breath, and what I used to do most of the time back then and still do is I go and sit to the guy. I'm like, this ticket, you put in a red for testing. Yeah. I'm trying to understand. Just run me through because I don't think it's done yet. And you listen to them and you start saying, okay, this person is thinking this way. Sometimes they overthink, and they're trying to be maybe extra smart and they do certain things, but they don't do exactly what the product has been designed to do. So sometimes you just need to communicate and explain and say, okay, this is what I think, or this is what you were supposed to do. And then sometimes like, no, I don't think so. I'm like, okay, you know what? Let's go meet the product owner who is the one that wrote this. I know. Person like, okay, I also communicate and like, this is what I understand by your user story. You want this, you want this. We always have that. This is what I understood when we did sprint planning. But the ABC says, you know, this is how. So, you know, sometimes we just rub my hand. They're like, oh wow, I didn't even, okay, fine, I'll do it that way. So, and you can go and fill it. Sam, just let me fill it. You know, that's communication. That's communication, that's collaboration at the end of this. So you're sharing ideas, you're sharing your thoughts. So most times, other kids will just, you know, dump one comment there, very long comments, failed because this, and, you know, sometimes developers just feel really overwhelmed. That's what we are supposed to do anyways. But at the end of the day, you have to empathize, you have to communicate sometimes, especially if it's something that is way out of context or, and like, so every scenario is not the same, to be very honest. Every organization, you have to use your initiative. And one thing with communication, again, is you do not communicate with dev A the same way you communicate with dev B. They are two separate people. You need, as a QA engineer, for effective communication, you need to be able to communicate to different people and pass your message across. You may be telling two people the same thing, but you are using different words because person A might understand clearly what you're saying, person B is lost and like what you're saying doesn't make sense. You're just saying nonsense. So you need to understand and say, okay, you know, try and communicate in the language. When I say in the language now, I don't mean literally language, in the language which that developer will understand. You know, so you have to immerse yourself as well into, and that's why I usually advise QA engineers to try and do some research and just maybe articles read up. So for example, from product perspective, I try and read articles about effective product management. I try and read articles about you know, new concept methodologies in software development, things like, you know, microservices, software as a service, whatever the case may be, if it's data management, data, you know, whatever, you know, just so that you have an idea. And sometimes you see that this thing come in handy when you're having a communication, when you're communicating with somebody, especially the technical team. You're trying to, you're in and you're in a room and maybe people are communicating and you realize that, oh, I read about this yesterday. And sometimes your communication may come in questions and you get the developer to pour out, you know, they'll be happy to explain and explain and explain, and then you can understand the person's thought process and understand how the person works and things like that. So these are effective ways to communicate. But as a QA engineer, you just know that you learning the skill of quality assurance in terms of whether it's manual or automated testing, you have just built the foundation. It's just like you saying you build a foundation and say that's all you need to make money in your hotel because you built the foundation. You still have to build the rooms. You still have to build your skyscraper. You know, you still have to put the beams. You still have to do all of those things and the finishing and the finesse. So these are the things that finesse your skill as a quality assurance engineer, a very good one at that. And at the end of the day, communication is also very pivotal to actually you leaving your sphere in terms of just being a quality assurance engineer and becoming a senior or then a lead and then maybe a manager. So if you are going through this phase and you have this what's it called, ambition to from maybe a rookie to junior to intermediate to senior to lead and then manager, and maybe tomorrow you own your own effective communication. Because for you to be able to lead people, you need to be able to communicate your ideas. For you to be able to, because leadership is influence. For you to be able to influence another person to do certain things because it's the right thing to do, you need to communicate. You need to communicate thoughts, you need to communicate ideas, you need to listen to feedback. I need to communicate to groups of people. So it is very important. It's a bridge. It's something that is not emphasized. And that's why here at NITO, we try to bring these things to the fore to make people understand what it really takes to become a proper quality assurance engineer. Do not shy away from communication. Ask questions where you can. Except you are told to stop asking questions, which hardly ever happens. But always learn to communicate. And communication is in several ways. Don't limit yourself. So, I mean, there are a lot of benefits even from all these things I mentioned today. There's the shared understanding. So once you start communication, everyone. So let's take an example. You're in a sprint session, and maybe the user story has been read. Now, most of the time, what I've seen in sprint planning sessions and interpretation of user stories is the case of, I don't know if anyone has heard the parable of 10 blind men touching the elephant, right? 10 blind people touch the elephant. They have 10 different experiences or 10 different explanations. You ask the first person, what did you touch? What did you feel? He gives you a different explanation, and the person gives you a different explanation. Maybe one touch the head, and down touch the tail, and down touch the tusk, and down touch the belly, and down touch the hoof. So in this case, when you as a QA engineer, you also need to be able to read the room. You feel like if you feel you don't understand what's going on, you ask questions, you try and break things down, ensure that everyone in that room, in that phase, in that sphere, have a common understanding. Because guess what that will do for you. Now let me give you an imagination. Imagine you having a sprint planning session, and there's a user story that has been read to everybody and say, this is what we need to do for the next 2 weeks. Now, at the end of the 2 weeks, you are testing the application. I'm like, oh no, this is not what I understood. That was the requirement from this user story. Can you mute? Sorry. So yeah. Okay, he has muted the screen. All right, so what happens is at the end of the sprint, the QA person says this ticket is failed. Dev says, no, why did you fail it? This is what I was asked to do. Product owner says, oh no, this is not what I asked you to do. Dev, but QA, this is not also what I was asking for. So we all have different ideas of what, and this is because there's a lack of shared understanding, a lack of proper communication. Everyone talked during the sprint planning session, but there was no clear understanding, no comprehension. And this is where we mostly get it wrong most of the time. So there needs to be that shared understanding. And quality assurance involves multiple stages and multiple teams. That's why you see a lot of times recruiters put on say being ability to work with cross-functional teams, because you have to do with multiple teams. Your test design, development, project management, your C-level executives. Because at the end of the day, most of the time when there's a big fail, And first thing that comes to people's mind is uh who was the QA that tested these things, or the QA not test this. I think you guys have seen what happened with GT Bank's product. We can see what happened during that period. People still ask. I still had someone call me over the weekend and like, I need to understand this thing. Did they? Are you sure GT Bank had the QA team? Do you think they even had a product team? Like, it doesn't make sense, because they released the product and products have issues till today after, maybe 6 weeks or so of the product release. But just as an example, I mean, how many of us use GT Bank and how many of us has experienced the issues that GT Bank is experiencing? I actually want to ask a question. Do you think that there is any role QA could have played better? And do you think there's any way you can link effective communication or the lack of effective communication into what we are seeing today in the GT Bank's model? Anyone, please. I would really like to get everyone's thoughts.
Yeah, I experienced the GT issue, and the first thing that came to my mind was if they actually had a QA team, because it seemed like a disaster, to be honest. So many things could have been avoided if their QA team communicated properly, or if they even had the QA team at all.
But let me ask you this question. What if let me disagree with you a little bit, right? I may agree with you later, but I just want, for the sake of this conversation, right, I want to give you a different perspective. What if the QA team had actually, maybe all the bugs, all the issues we are finding are bugs on maybe their board today?
Okay, and they didn't fix them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that could be another case.
So whose fault do you think it would be at this point in time? Product team,
Um,
management team,
that
or
I think it would be the product team. Well, it depends on their project management process, but I think product team, because I mean the QA people reported the bugs and they did nothing about it. They didn't, the developers were not asked to act upon the bugs.
but in this case, will you say that the communication could have been or it's not? This is not about communication.
I wouldn't say it's communication. Because I mean, the QA communicated it to the team, and maybe they didn't do anything about it at all.
Hmm. Okay, but I disagree. You know why? I'm going to. I agree with a lot of things you said. To be
No.
very, I'm just disagreeing. I want to give you different perspectives, because the truth is we will never know. But let me give you different perspectives how communication could have affected this thing. Me logging the bugs is not enough as a QA engineer to preventing something like this. It's not enough. Now, the thing is, again, it comes down to that word, comprehension, understanding. As a QA engineer, like I said, the way you communicate to your product team is not the same way you communicate to the dev team. It's not the same way you communicate to the UI UX team, and it's not the same way you communicate to your management team. Now, as the QA engineers, and that's why you see in cases like this, I will have the head of the QA manager role in a case like this. You know why? He may have logged and they may have done a report about these things, but effective communication is understanding. Now, let me give you the reason why. You need to understand what is important to a product manager. Why do I need to understand what's important to a product manager? Because if I want to communicate to a project manager, I need to communicate in that language, because that's the only way the product manager will listen to me. I'll give you a scenario what happened to me while I worked with my early days working with Conga in Nigeria during the I think their early years, I think the first 2 years. There was this bug I saw, I caught, and I communicated it to the team. I'm like, oh, there's this bug. Oh, when I placed an order on, on our pre-production, we had, so it was staging and pre-production environment. When I placed an order on any of those environments, my order gets delivered because I was actually placing live orders, and the order will get delivered to me. Then I'll return it back to the warehouse and cancel it and tell them, oh, this was, because they don't know who placed the order. They just know that I put, the head office address. So it may be like I'm actually a staff and I'm still ordering something for myself. So I placed the order. I did that a lot, just dummy orders to see their delivery time, see, how the orders are processed and things like that. So I placed certain orders, and what happened was I put, I think, about 5 items in my cart, and the 5 items cost 10,000 naira. And at that point, we had just implemented the wallet system, right? So I placed those orders. 10,000 naira was not deducted from my account, from my card that I used to place online, because I didn't do order by delivery. I paid with my debit card. And I waited for the money to leave my account. It was approved. My money didn't leave my account, so I thought my order didn't go through. But lo and behold, they delivered my order like 2 or 3 days later to the office. So I went back to the order and to my account, and I realized that there was 10,000 naira in my wallet. 10,000 naira didn't leave my account, but the items were delivered to me. So I placed the order again. This time around, the money left my account. I returned both of them. I placed the order again about 5 different times. The money kept leaving my account. Everything happened normally. So I went to the test environment and tried it. After like 2 or 3 times, it happened to me again. So I sent a message to my manager and also to the team, and I said, this is happening, but it's sporadic, it's intermittent. And the manager was like, okay, let people try and reproduce this thing. They tried to reproduce it. Nobody saw anything there. Now, I already knew, because I then spoke to some developers, and we had a conversation with them. The developer was like, oh, there may be a glitch. Maybe this thing is happening as a loop somewhere, something. We talked to the whole technical stuff. Some things I understood, some things I didn't understand, some things I even went to go and research afterwards. But after I understood, well, sort of what was going on, but I let it slide. We packaged that release and we released it. 6 weeks to see, about 4 to 6 weeks down the line, one of the engineering managers was just checking the logs randomly, and he just noticed that there was a particular guy that orders every day, and his orders are between 200K to 500K every single day. So the guy was like, all this, what is this person? He checked the address. Person was in, I think, Lekki or so. And the guy was like, all these rich people's children and all. So the guy just kept ordering. So the guy overlooked it, like, this guy is a good customer, And the next week, the guy kept ordering again. Let me even look at this guy. What's this guy's name? He checked the address. Now, see, let me just go into the login. Like, maybe he had nothing doing that day, just felt he wants to play around. I just started looking. Then he went to the back end and I realized that he also noticed a transaction the guy has been doing, which I actually did think of, but I did not communicate appropriately. I mentioned it that, oh, we're having this issue, and that this is a risk, so someone can just collect our money like that. But I just, said it. Now, I actually did mention it, but I did not communicate. That's the truth. I did not communicate the risk. Now, managers and product owners understand only 2 major things. For product owners and project managers, what they hear is timeline, budget, and cost. But one thing that cuts across every management team or every senior executive is money. Now, if you tell them that we are at risk of losing money, because whether it's reputation, it's face, everything is still back. If you lose reputation, you're losing money. It still comes down to money. Now, it occurred to me, or I knew that this thing happened because it went back into my wallet. And I knew that I could withdraw it from my wallet because I was part of the team who implemented that wallet system. And you can withdraw money from your wallet back into your bank account. So if I kept on doing that stuff randomly, I will eventually get money entering my wallet. So if I had made a purchase of 1 million, 1 million would have been in my wallet. They won't charge my bank 1 million anyways. So 1 million will be my, I can withdraw 1 million. So I have 1 million naira in my bank account. I'll still get the goods worth 1 million naira. I can still sell from that extra 1 million, making 2 million naira that I'll probably potentially have, right? But I did not communicate that issue. I'll still come back to GT Bank and link it. This is the essence of communication, because if I had mentioned that, guys, don't forget that money entering the wallet can be withdrawn to bank accounts, I did not communicate effectively. And I mentioned we can lose money. Now, my manager ears would have been open because, she just said, oh, you guys just go and see if you can recreate this. If I had clearly communicated and stated that this is intermittent, but when it happens, it can be fatal because we can lose money. Because when I talked to the developer, he told me, oh, it can happen maybe once in every 100 people. And guess what? When you do the calculation, we had 5,000 people hitting our website every second every minute at that point in time. Which means if it happens once in every 100 people, in 5,000, you have maybe it happening to 50 people. And if those 50 people continue doing it every day, trust me, we are losing money. And eventually we realized that we were right. It was not only that guy. That guy just led us to see that a lot more people were doing it because they realized that they buy something, the money gets into their wallet. And for them, it was not intermittent. For them, as they keep buying, it keeps entering their wallet and they don't get charged. So it happened to specific people, right? And again, your effective communication is important there because you yourself need to first comprehend and understand the situation of things and then communicate in people's language. Even though I was against that release being that application being released, that version being released at the time, I kicked against it vehemently, but I did not have effective communication as a skill at the time. And that was what I learned from that experience, that I need to find the right words at the right time to the right people. And that is and make them understand and comprehend the risk. Because one of the things that QA also eliminates in their line of work today is you interpreting risk. Because when you find an issue, sometimes you may classify this as a high impact bug or a critical bug, but the business people are like, no, it's not really that important. You need to be able to quantify and classify that risk and communicate it effectively in the words in which they will understand. So that's one thing. Early issue detection, when you communicate properly to issues can be detected appropriately. So for instance, if that conversation I had with the developer, I had brought, try to sort of communicate to the right people, they would have even taken it further and thought through certain other business scenarios that we didn't think of at our level at the time. And then that would have been an early detection. So these are ways. Now, bringing it back to GT Bank, it's possible. I can give you a scenario whereby the team had mentioned all the issues, but they did not properly communicate and say, okay, we are empathizing with users, right? Because as a user, me coming here, bringing a new app, I have been using this app. First and foremost, GT Bank has not released any updates, any UI updates and process updates in maybe 5 years, right? So it will be difficult for people to change. So those QA team would have said, hey guys, as a user, we've done our own due diligence. We've tried it internally. So these things take us 2 seconds to do before now. It's taking us 1 minute. this is a bad experience for me. I won't be able to do this. I have asked a couple of people to, with data, a lot of information, and making them understand the impact of those bugs that have been logged and the potential impact to the customer. And then you now tie it back to, if you're talking to maybe a senior executive, you're now tying it back to the potential loss in revenue that the bad experience, because this thing alone has caused people to use more. So I remember when I started having the issues, immediately I didn't even bother myself. I was expecting some income that day when GT Bank released, and I tried to log on to their bank. The whole thing was, and I'm like, you guys, just please hold on, don't send that money, send it to Stanbic. And right there and then they've lost revenue. Is it in transfer fees? Is it in how long I have kept my money and they could have used to trade? And they've lost money. That's a given. So by the time you translate all of these things to Naira and Kobo, for a developer, you translate it to how it affects the next developer, how it affects how he's seen or his impact in the company. And for a product owner or a project manager, you are telling them how to affect the timeline, the sprint, how to affect the product in terms of money, or how to affect the product in terms of what's it called, duration and things like that. They will listen to you because everyone has their own interest in terms of what is value to them. So you need to find that value and communicate, and that is what is called effective communication, because you're speaking in those words, those guys can understand clearly what you are saying, and then they will say, oh, hold on, what are we going to do about it, right? Rather than you speaking in QA language. So you need to empathize not just with your customers, with everybody on the team as well, and understand what makes them tick. So QA often requires cross-functional collaboration to identify, we've talked about all of this, like I mentioned in my example, I spoke with a developer that's cross-function, collaborating with that guy to analyze, identify, and solve the problem. That is also communication, right? Because sometimes you just need to communicate with the UI UX guy and say, hey guy, this experience you did, I don't think it's good, communicate, and you guys brainstorm, share ideas, because that is, again, effective communication, the sharing of ideas and thoughts. Efficient testing processes. I think these are core in what we do. So you need a comprehensive understanding of the project that you have been given, so that you can write your test cases in a very relevant manner. So effective communication between developers and testers. I've talked on this before. I'm not going to belabor the fact. So it is very important for you to be able to communicate majorly with developers, because you need to. Those are one of the people. I mean, especially for young QA engineers, I would say your first stakeholder are the developers. You need to understand them and let them liking you doesn't really mean that you need to suck up to them or lick us things like that. It just means you need to empathize with them and understand how they think. A lot of people take, I mean, I've seen a lot of testers in the past saying, oh no, I can't do that. What's that? No, he has to take what I'm QA. I'm saying is not, this thing will not pass, it's not going to pass. Of course, yes, it may not pass because you've said it's not going to pass and all. But at the end of the day, what does that mean? It means that developer is not really comfortable working with you. So when you want to communicate with him tomorrow, he may sit there listening to you, but you're not communicating, because that guy probably not listening he's not hearing what you're saying. He's hearing what you're saying, he's not getting shit because he's tuned out. So these are very, very subtle ways that you could lose or gain that quality that you're looking for by effectively communicating with all stakeholders. So feedback loop. Communication establishes, a feedback loop where testers can provide feedback to developers. Yes, so it's still part of what we're talking about, where you can give them feedback and say, hey, these are the issues I encountered during this thing. This is what the user story says. What do you think? blah blah blah, and then you guys share ideas, you guys communicate, you talk, you understand, and developer will like, oh, I didn't see it that way, or, oh, no. Developer explains, and maybe it's you who didn't see it the right way, and then you guys can go back to the product owner and say, hey, guy, this user story, I think we should edit it this way, we should improve it this way, we should improve it that way, blah blah blah, or we didn't get what you meant, explain it better, or these are the different ways we can interpret this or listen to the user. Which one do you want? Stuff like that. So there needs to be that feedback loop between you and not just developers, but also the product managers and Scrum Masters and things like that. So like I said, this loop helped you definitely will help developers understand the expectation, what you are trying to, because one thing that I feel QA engineers need to always ask from the beginning, which is when the user stories are being created or when they've been created and relate to you, is the why. Why are we doing this? So what, why, and how? Why are we doing this? What do you exactly want us to do? And how do you intend it to work? So understanding this thing will cater for a lot of rework, all those failed tests. And a lot of testers feel like if you test something and it doesn't fail, and you keep testing things that don't fail, you're not really catching a bug. It may just be that you've mitigated the risk and you have caught the bugs that could have been caught at the very beginning if you collaborate with and do that feedback loop with developers and the product managers in sprint planning session, or even prior in backlog refinement sessions, if the organization you are part of those sessions. But specifically, majorly in sprint planning sessions, you need to have that, and also during the sprint, that feedback, because there may be things that have been missed and you guys catch it and you bring it back to the floor and like, okay, fine, we can't take it into this sprint, we'll put it in the backlog, make it as an improvement later, or no, it needs to go into the sprint, you need to scrap this sprint and, add these other things here. So, I mean, we operate in an agile environment today, and that environment is supposed to help us move things on faster, but without effective communication established between all major stakeholders in that development team, we won't be able to harness the full potential of agile. Yeah, continuous improvement, like I just said. So as you continuously improve. So because you've said some things will happen, some people say, oh, no, if this is the sprint goal, so there's nothing, we cannot change it. Of course, it is highly said that your sprint goal shouldn't be changed, but where it is a clear error, where whatever you have decided your sprint goal will still be junked at the end of the sprint, why then waste all the time? I've been on a project before where we started a project and 2 months down the line, we're given an 8-month timeline, which was a very steep timeline for the huge amount of project we're going to do. That was our first time using the agile methodology. The learning curves, everything, the new technologies we have to use and everything. So there was that. And 2 months down the line, we realized that after doing a lot of communication, collaboration, and brainstorming, realized that everything we had done wrong. We needed to restructure the entire product, in fact, change language, change things. It seemed like, we're never going to meet it. But guess what? Immediately we made those changes. We actually were 1 month early to our deadline. So you see, sometimes agile, again, is adaptive. You not just remain rigid. Yes, when you're on the right path, if it's a minor change that you feel, can go into an improvement, and the product owner will decide all of that most of the time, but you can nudge in that essence. But at the end of the day, what I'm trying to say is all this communication and collaboration will help you improve, have that continuous improvement in processes, in features, and this number 7 goes without even saying, risk management. It helps you mitigate. Now, for example, the GT Bank Sarah was talking about just now, all that risk, they would have managed it with effective communication and telling themselves the right things, right? And sounding the right alarms. They would have managed these risks better, because right now it's been a disaster, and that disaster would have been avoided. So, I'm not going to go through all of this so much, because we've talked through most of them, because at the end of the day, everything we are saying will lead to client satisfaction, right? And one other great tool of communication, because communication is not always by talking, it can also be written, is documenting things and that you want to share with maybe newbies or people later. So when you communicate properly, you'll be able to know exactly how to document stuff appropriately. The processes, your test cases, your issues, the severity of your issues, why that you feel that issue is severe. That's why you have the comment section. So you say this issue is critical, we can't go live because of this issue. Because if we go live with this issue, ABC is a potential risk, CD is a potential risk. And if this risk happens, it will lead to loss of XYZ, loss of revenue, loss of brand, whatever, which is exactly what's happening to Citibank right now. So, best practices for communication, open channels. Open channels being, everywhere, be able to communicate everywhere in your meetings, your stand-ups, the status updates on Slack, Teams, whatever the case may be. Clear documentation. We mentioned that earlier before. Again, this number 3 cannot be overemphasized. I mentioned it earlier, but I don't want it to be a mention. I want to focus on this. Active listening, right? You need to actively listen within a team because it's a form of communication. Because when you listen while somebody is talking, you are understanding and that person is communicating to you. And then you can determine whether what the person is saying trumps what you have been thinking, or what you've been thinking trumps what the person is saying, and you cannot articulate why appropriately. Because I see a lot of people talk, especially in a heated argument, or not maybe argument, in the communication where a dev person is trying to communicate something and a QA person is trying to communicate another thing. I hear people talk and the other one keeps quiet, but it's not listening. They are listening, but they listen to respond. They don't listen to understand before responding. That is something that you don't want to do. You want to listen, and you need to keep an open mind in communication. You need to keep an open mind, being that, okay, what I'm saying might be a good idea, but something else might be better. So let me listen to see if anything anybody's saying is better. Let me give you guys a tip. One thing I always do. When I go into a room and a conversation or a discussion is being had about maybe a feature or something, I listen attentively. I listen very well. And I listen to everybody. And guess what? Sometimes I may have an opinion in my mind, but by the time I listen, most of the time, when I finish listening to everybody in the room, that my opinion I may not throw it away completely, but it would have changed significantly. Because maybe what I was thinking before, I have to now shave 10% off and add 2% of this person's idea into what I was thinking for, then 2% of person B, person C, and add it to my own. Then when I talk and now bring mine to the table, people are like, oh, this is the best of both worlds. Oh, this is better. Or, I think what you said makes sense. So maybe we can go with that. Or sometimes, no, I don't think that makes sense. I think if we do it this way, it will make better sense. And I listen again. And okay, fine. Yeah, what you're saying makes sense because I understand what he's saying, and what he's saying actually does make sense. So active listening cannot be overemphasized. It is key. It is key to effective communication and eventually to ensuring a quality software. Feedback culture, very key as well. Now, I want you to notice one thing. Feedback, we say feedback, right? Feedback is something that is very difficult to receive. It's easier to give because sometimes we criticize people. I see criticism as feedback, to be very honest, whether it is wrong or right. And no matter how wrong a criticism is, if you listen attentively and actively, you may get one thing from that criticism that person is criticizing you. So you need to learn to take feedback. There was something I did in one of my previous places where I worked in the past. I created a culture of feedback. We did it at the end of every quarter, every 3 months. I'll take my team into a room and we sit down, starting with myself. I'll tell everybody, the first time I did it, people were very eager to give me feedback. So I stood in front of the entire team, where I think 21 at the time, and I said, I want everybody to give me to criticize me constructively and give me feedback on, in this quarter between January and March. Tell me exactly what you guys think I've done right. Tell me what you think I've done completely wrong, and tell me things that I may have done to hurt your feelings or things like that. So from work to then personal, give me your feedback. And I stood and I told myself that day that as they are talking, I will not utter a word in defense of myself. And as we're talking, I was taking notes. We're talking, I was taking. A lot of people said a lot of things, And when you give people the freedom to speak in that manner, you'll be amazed the feedback you will get. Some of them were hurtful, not because what they said was hurtful, but because it wasn't something I really wanted to hear about myself at the time, or so it wasn't something I thought about myself at the time. But when two people said same thing, they may not have said in the same word, but I understood someone saying something in this way, another person saying something this way. That's how they understand how to communicate it. But I understood these two things mean the same thing. So they are talking about the same traits that I'm exhibiting. So it means I have these traits. Even though I don't like the fact that I have it, I need to change it. Now, them seeing that I understood what they said and have taken it, and them seeing me work on it, is communication. They know that they've communicated to me, and they can trust that they will communicate and give me feedback, and I'll take it in. At the end of the day, I will improve myself. And at the end of the day, what will happen? Our job will become better in terms of output, because at the end of the day, it still boils down to output, what we are here to do, right? As quality assurance engineer, I'll be able to relate to people better, be able to communicate with people better. A lot of things they told me were feedback around maybe how I talk to somebody, how I talk to this person. So I realized, okay, people are different. I'm talking to this guy different from me. I'm talking to this guy, and things like that. So a culture of feedback is something that is good. You need to first, it takes time. You need to keep telling yourself, I need to take this as feedback. Don't get angry. It's not personal. I need to take it as feedback. Even if it's personal, tell yourself it's not personal. You don't take it personal. Take those feedback. And then learn to give feedback. Now, giving feedback is also a great thing. Now, some people in today's world, we're like, no, I'm not going to tell. You watch the person drown. I don't think it's a good thing. I think if you can make a change in your environment and say, guys, I think we should create a culture of giving each other feedback constructively to help us show them why. And again, in our communication as to this feedback you want to do, communicate the benefits why you are doing this will be good for each and every one. And you will realize that everyone will embrace that idea. And at the end of the day, you guys will work better. And trust me, the things we achieved in that company at that point in time was immense. It was glaring, and we became the envy of the company because everybody felt they called us management children, in quotes. So it's just constructive feedback, and we being able to communicate effectively. And that's where you now see people saying, oh, I felt like we had a family, because effective communication, feedback, active listening, all these foster that teamwork. And when you're actually practicing proper teamwork and collaboration and communication, there's no how your output will not be stellar. This cannot be overemphasized. I think my time is up, so I will just quickly go through. So use of tools. I'm just going to scan through these. There are several tools you can use to communicate and collaborate. You have it on the screen. Language and terminology, I mentioned it's how the vocabulary. So again, to avoid misunderstanding, you need to know how to communicate to each person in different way. Like I said, person A, person B, person C. 3 different ways of communicating. 2 people might be similar, so it's fine, but different ways. Regular updates, keep giving yourself regular updates and things like that. Again, communication is the cornerstone of effective quality assurance, because at the end of the day, you are getting quality out of the people you are working with. are getting quality. And when you get quality out of them, your product and services at the end of the day will be of top quality, and you would have achieved what you have been hired to do, which is ensure quality in that organization and the organization's products. So it bridges that gap between all the different stakeholders and teams, and helps that your project at the end of the day, you deliver a quality solution. And at the end of the day, you also realize that not just your product and services is changing, you realize that you are changing the culture of that organization, or you guys are changing it collectively, because communication is the bane of all of these things. So that's it from me today. Sorry, I hope I have not bored you guys. This is time for question and answer. Please ask me any question, maybe issues you're facing at work, things you may think you may need answers on around how to communicate, when to communicate, and things like that. Please, guys, shoot.
I have a question. Good evening.
Yeah, good evening. Please go ahead.
What do you do when you are trying to get across to someone, and for each organization they have a communication channel, there's mail and all, but what do you do when you've exhausted all those options but you've still not gotten like a response? Like, what's the best way to do? Okay, let's say I want to reach you and I have sent a mail, I have sent a text, and still no response, and there's like a timeline on it, could be a developer. How do you do that? How do you treat that kind of issue?
Okay, so there are several ways. Again, the first thing I would do if I were you is I will reach out to the person on a personal note, maybe WhatsApp call, phone call, whatever the case may be. And I'm like, you exchange pleasantries. I'm like, there's something I really want you to talk to you about. Make the person understand that it's a serious thing for you that you want to talk to that person about. Again, communication, effective communication. You let the person know that this is important for me, right? And let him know that, or her know that, okay, I have this deadline, this is the issue, this is what's at stake, but I've tried to reach you in this manner, but you don't respond in time. It may be that, and again, there's something I've done before. I do like an about me manual and give to people who I feel need to know a little bit some things about me in order to get through to me. Sometimes I just use my mouth to tell them. And I said, this is the way. If you want to reach me, this is the best way to reach me. If you try here, I'm not. So these are I can give you my top 3 ways of communicating with me. If you try this and you don't get me, try this. Try this and don't get me, try this. You try this and don't get me, try this again, or continue until I answer, so, or something like that. So you reach out to the person, find out, say, hey, bro, I'm trying to reach you like this. I've tried to reach you, I've tried to reach you like this. You're not responding. It seems like you don't really like those ways of communication. Which is your best way of communication? Person was like, oh, no, it's not like I don't like them, or I've just been having this issue. Okay, don't worry. This is my private number. You can always reach me here. Or, you create that environment to person to give you the feedback you are wanting to actually solve your problem. Now, there are cases whereby this person is not going to budge or give you anything. That is why you have a Scrum Master. So a lot of times QA will just feel like, oh, I've tried everything. The essence of a Scrum Master is to eradicate blockers. You try everything within your power over time. You still have a deadline to meet. The person is not coming up. You escalate it to your Scrum Master or your line manager, whatever whatever structure that company has. You need to escalate after, with emphasis on after, trying every means of communication and also that personal touch, because you have to empathize with that person and say, okay, person may be going through a lot this period. It may be like, okay, person, I told you I'm going through a lot this period, though. Just help me cover up, or this, this kind of thing, or maybe redirect to somebody else. But if you cannot reach the person at all, even personally, then you have to escalate it, because that deadline remains a deadline. The product owner needs to make a decision. You're escalating not because you're trying to throw the person under the bus, but because you understand the essence of not communicating. which means at the end of the day, you will not get that out because you're trying to communicate to in order to get an output, right? So that you not being able to reach this person will cause a delay, a potential delay. So before the delay happens, it's not after the delay you now start telling people, oh, I tried to reach him, I couldn't get him. At the end of the day, you've not communicated effectively because you tried communicating with one person, but you've not communicated with the other stakeholder who needs to know that I tried to communicate with this other guy, I did not. So effective communication needs to is also about, like I said before, know when to communicate to who and why. The why is because there's a deadline and you are not able to reach this guy, which is the who that's supposed to give you this thing to meet up with the deadline. And if you don't meet up with the deadline, the company will lose money or this happens. So who do you now need to escalate to? And when do you need to escalate it? Are you going to escalate it the second you not reach the guy? So if you have a deadline of Friday and you know that this task is going to take you 3 hours to deliver, and today is Tuesday, you know that, okay, you can still give this guy till, say, Wednesday, for example, assuming the task is not dependent on some other task that would also cause a delay for those ones. So it's no one size fits all. There are a lot of things you need to put into perspective, right? To say, okay, when do I need to escalate to this manager or this scrum master or this person to now take it up and help me unblock me in this case? So that's what I'll tell you, but try that personal touch first.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome. Anyone else? Hello, guys. Anyone else?
Yes, I have a question. Good evening, everyone.
Yeah, good evening.
Okay. So my question goes like this. If you're in a position whereby you are given a task to do and you have not done it, and maybe the team lead is expecting you to give feedback on that task that was given to you, and you've not done it, and like you want to finish the task before communicating or giving feedback, is it right? Because I was given a project one time and I did not communicate. Like I want to use example. I was given a project and I did not communicate at that time because I had issues. So many things came up. So I did not communicate. I wanted to finish the project before giving feedback. So later on, I was not able to submit the project. And I was like, why is it my fault? Because so many things came up and I could not do the project. I don't want to give excuses until I'm done with the project.
Okay. I'll give you a scenario and I would like you to answer this your question by yourself after I give you a scenario. So I'll give you this scenario. Real life, it happened to me. So myself and one of the directors at the company I worked in the past, where I first reviewed the team and I sort of appraised the team and gave the appraisal. Two guys, they worked in the same team. Now, guy A and guy B, let's use it like that. So guy A was sort of the more experienced guy. Guy B was the new guy and less experienced, fresh out of school, but learning the trade. But guy A, I gave a very good score. Guy B, I gave kind of not bad score, but one step down of from guy A, right? And then my director said no. Guy B is actually better than guy A. And I'm like, no. So we had a back and forth, and then we had this communication, and she said to me, you know what? I give guy A something to do, and I give guy B something to do. And I told her, yeah, guy A finishes his stuff fast. He finishes it and gives it to me. Yeah, there might be some issues here and there. I send him back it, but he finishes it and gives to me. But guy B, may finish it in 1 week later, or sometimes 2 weeks later, sometimes 1 month later. And she told me, she said, yeah, that's true. But guess what? When you give guy B something to do, the very next day or the third day, he'll drop you a message. Oh, I'm working on this thing. This is the challenge I'm facing on this project. I will need to do this research, but I'm working on it. Just please bear with me. Then maybe 2 or 3 days to the deadline, guy B will message you again. Man, this issue I faced that time, I told you I was working on, I've passed those stages, but I've met other challenges. This other challenge I faced those things have cost me a lot of delay. I may not be able to meet up with this Friday deadline you gave me. So can I ask that you extend it to next week, Wednesday? You may respond like, Wednesday is too far, no, make it Tuesday. I'll say, okay. Monday may come and text you like, okay, I'm 80% done. These are the issues with it. Do you want me to send it to you like that, or should I go ahead and fix this thing? But or take what I've done 80%. I'm still going ahead to complete the rest, and he continues working on it. He communicates at every step of the way. So you who is communicating to I realize that director did not actually feel the extra time it took. Rather than a person that you give something to do and you don't hear from person until the day of delivery, and person tells you that, yeah, I couldn't finish it. Please, I will finish it tomorrow. Or you don't even hear from person. And when you not be the one to go and ask, and person tells you, I'm almost done. No, I'm at 90%. Just give me another 2 hours. And the person does it, you get it. But there's something that has been created in your mind. This person missed my deadline. And you are it's building up. Next time it happens, it builds up. Next time it happens, it builds up. Who do you think you would prefer in that scenario? What do you think, or answer your question, what do you think you should do now in that scenario?
I think I should communicate at every point. Yes.
Exactly. Communicate those challenges that are hindering
But
you
I
from.
feel I'm going to be like the person is going to get tired of me giving excuses every time.
Why do you also have to have excuses every time? It shouldn't be every time anyway. But when they are genuine and people see that these challenges are genuine, and sometimes you may give it the first time, and guess what? The person knowing that, oh, this is a challenge, might then realize that, oh, I have this skill. It has happened to me in the past before. But if you don't communicate it, person may not be able to give you pointers as to how to fix those challenges, which means next time you already now have learned. Now that's what do you think experience is? Experience is a series of failure. That's what we say you need experience. So if you don't fail, how do you grow? So when you fail, people like, okay, this person is having these challenges and is hindering you from delivering what you ask. The person will now teach you and show you what to do and how to make it faster and better. So tomorrow, what happens? You deliver it faster. You may not still deliver it in good time, but the person is seeing that steady progress and is seeing that steady communication. Trust me, you will be of greater value to that team than someone who just keeps quiet and you're waiting to deliver. Again, so managers are not one size fits all. Naturally, every human. Now, let me tell you what I have done with a difficult manager. I was thrown into a role that was 7 steps ahead of my grade at that point in time. I knew this manager was a difficult person to deal with. Guess what I did? I went into this manager's office and I said, I know that I've been given this role. I'm temporarily going to fill this role, but I know that it takes time for you guys to find a replacement for this role. And because I'm next in line, even though there's 7 steps, because everybody between the person who resigned and myself had also resigned before then, and now I was the only one left. I said, please, I know this is going to be a huge role for me to fill. I do not have the experience. Please, I want your patience. Guess what? People in that company, one day started asking me, like, what do you do to this? But like, why is person so lenient with you? But when it comes to us, they are always very harsh and very. I went and communicated. I communicated my challenges ahead of time. I'm going to this meal. I'm laying my insecurities and my everything bare before you right now. I know that I don't have the skill. So guess what? When I fail, guess what the manager did? He'll call me into his office. He'll say, sit down. This is what you did. With this and this and this, do you think this is the right thing to do? I'm like, no. Do you know why? Not really. And after explaining to me, I grew exponentially. The next year when they were trying to employ, that same year, sorry, they went to this thing. I was there. Well, I wasn't supposed to be there, but again, like I was next in line to be there. And they're like, oh yeah, we need to employ this for this role for this person that left. And the whole management team said, no, there's no need. This guy's already doing the work. There's no need to employ. Let's just keep him doing the work. He's doing the work. It's fine. So I'm just showing you that setting that expectations. We are all humans. Even that person that is forming a beast in the office also has a soft spot. You just need to find it. You just need to communicate that. So I realized that this person appreciates or likes it when say, "Oh, take me under your tutelage," something like that. So I'm like, I'm going to fall into a lot of ditches in this position. Please, I need you to help me. Just show me, guide me, be lenient with me when that thing happens. And trust me, help me a whole lot. So this is how you handle situations like that. But learn to communicate. And at every point in time, if I'm not going to do something, I'll tell them, I'm not going to be able to meet up with this time, but I will try. And I'll give, now, before I ever come to say I'm not going to meet up, I have a very valid reason. That's another thing you need to note. So that's it.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Any questions? Any more questions before I hand it over to our host? Okay, if there's no more question, Madam Sarah, I will hand it back to you. Not the other Sarah now. I mean Sarah, our host.
Thanks, Sam. And thanks everyone for joining today's session. Your time was very much appreciated. I would love to have you join our webinars again on Thursday. And we also have for next week. It's free, it's not paid. Tell your friend to tell a friend. And that way we can all learn other things, whether it's within QA, outside of QA, or how to best